Yo, peace, everybody. Real quick update on what's been going on down on our end. You know, a lot of you found out that the bank was trying to repo Charlie's RV, and we found out about that as well. And that's his home and someone who's, you know, done a lot for us. So we were able to stop that from happening and paying off his debts by donating him all the money that we made in June from our Patreon. So it's really amazing for us to be able to use this platform for stuff like that. A lot of people in our scene don't really get help like that. So we don't take it lightly, and we really appreciate the ability to do that, and it wouldn't have been possible without everybody who signed up. Now the month that's coming up, we're going to be doing something for HERT BF crew. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him and his situation, seeing as it happened a while ago and it's still currently going down. His home was raided in 2008. He was sentenced to jail in 2010 and been on parole since, which makes it 11 years. And the reason he's still on parole is because he owes $60,000 in restitution. But he's been, slowly paying that off. And we're going to be donating all of the money we make to him at the end of July. So some of the stuff that happened to him through getting caught up writing graffiti was he couldn't own any art making material legally. So they stopped him from owning chalk, markers, pencils, paint, canvases. And this is someone who's he does art. Even just outside of graph. So that's, and then he couldn't own a cell phone, couldn't drive a car, couldn't leave the county, couldn't be anywhere not contactable by landline phone, still can't leave the county. So he's getting closer to paying off the restitution and finally ending this 11 years of parole. So our plan is to finish that off. Just like we were able to save Charlie's home successfully, our plan is to stop this parole thing from going down and just finish it off, and then that's a thing of the past, you know what I mean? So that's what we're going to be doing with all of the money we make in July for everybody who signs up for the Patreon. What you'll get in return is access to Sake, Sean Crawford, Les, and Lot 29 episodes. They're all up right now. And as well, we're going to be sending everyone a print that we made on high quality photo paper of HERT's day in court, and it's him with two officers by his side, and it has his hand style under it. So trying to make it worth it to sign up and help this guy out and help us help this guy out. So I can't once again thank you enough for everyone who's been supporting since the start and everyone who's signed up for anything we've done or even listened to an episode. Hopefully we can keep this going and just continue, helping out people who we think deserve the help. So the link to the Patreon is in our Instagram bio, and it's also on our website. Yo, thank you so much. Enjoy the episode. Peace. All right, and we're live, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this since we started contacting each other online a few months ago. You recently moved out of New York, right?
We did. By chance, it was timed with COVID, but we did an apartment swap in LA with a friend because we were considering relocating to there. And that was March of when COVID started. And then I was kind of nervous about making all my bills here. So we just packed up here and moved to Colorado, which is where I grew up. And I don't know, it's I have a lot of respect for everyone that stayed here, obviously. It's it's a move. We have a 3-year-old kid, and it just felt, I was really unsure about the whole thing. I never thought it would be 6 weeks. I thought it'd be longer, which it was. So we just switched it up. And I felt like an energy shift where I wanted to just maybe use it as a time to pursue other things, think about other things, see other things. So
yeah, I feel like with when COVID hit, especially in New York City, it's seeing as it hit this place the hardest in America, and just it made you think a lot is this even a good place to be? Is a city a good place to be living in? You're just on top of each other, crammed in. There's zero kind of not even forget about social distancing, but just space in general is hard to come by from the apartments that you live in to just like anything at all, like you really appreciate it so much more. So I can only imagine like how has like the thought difference been of now you're living in like essentially what people here would consider the woods.
Yeah. So when it started, I didn't. I was like anyone, like I didn't really know what was going to happen, but I just thought we should be somewhere where there's less population density. And then even it was a time when you weren't supposed to touch your doorknob and all that. I have like, again, my kid is like at that age that's like what they do. They just go around and like do that. So, so we moved, and we moved there without a plan of how long to stay. We rented a place for 2 months, and now we've been there for a year. But for me, it's like a familiar place because maybe if you grew up in New York, you think of nature and the woods as like a place you go on vacation or something. But people that live there think of this place as an exotic place, like visiting the woods for like the kid that grew up in the East Village or something.
Yeah, like this is their vacation or this is their woods.
Their woods, or it's even more like it's like exotic, like they don't know what to expect if they come here. You know, they've seen movies, but that might be it. And the reason I'm saying that is because I can relate, because when I came here, I didn't know anything about any of it.
So do you not care? Like, some people they feel like they have to live in a cityscape, or they have to live in a big city, or some people they have to live in the woods. But seeing as you just went from one to the other, from like my eyes seamlessly, like does it not really matter to you where you live? Could it be here or there as long as you got like your family and the things that you love to do? Which, seeing as your main thing is photography, you can do that just about anywhere. Does it not matter to you?
I wouldn't say it doesn't matter, but like I love life. Like I want to be everywhere at once, like I want to surf in Rockaway. I want to be in LA. I want to like move around, see stuff. So I was here for 22 years, and at some point I just became a little more open to like just trying something else. And it's not easy to leave here. I felt like a lot of people that come here, they stay for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And then, you do come to a point in your life where you're no longer as young and flexible as you were. So when I came here, I was paying $350 a month to share a bedroom, and then by the time I left, I was paying more than that just for my parking space. Like everything got so kind of inflated, that at some point I was just treading water. I wasn't making money. I was just kind of like here. But no, it's the best place, I think, for most things. I wouldn't say it's the best place for like outdoor stuff, but
You came here in '98 in a time when New York was literally not what it is now at all, pretty much. Like from just like from literally everything, from the demographic of people who live here or live in certain areas, to what the prices are, to like the graffiti writers that are out and about. It was like totally different. So in a way, it's like you lived here, yeah, and like you moved. It's all good, and you like moved out recently, but it's like you're moving out of a place it's not the same place that you moved into.
Right. Yeah, like when I came here, I guess it was like a pre-internet time, pretty much. I mean, the internet was out, but people weren't like really using it. And I came here with like a fascination just for certain things, like bike messengering, which I never did, but I just thought it was cool. I rode bikes a lot. Graffiti's the only thing that I've ever like been a fan of that I never did. When I think about it, like I love skateboarding. I used to skate. I love certain things, but for some reason graffiti, when I got to New York, was like a thing for me. And I think maybe I was seeing the remnants of what was like almost like a golden era of like the early 90s. Is that what is this what we want to talk about?
No, it's whatever
Oh,
whatever
okay.
it leads to.
Yeah, I just remember like when I got to New York, like people would talk about how it was much more lawless even before I got there, and then I felt like I saw it get more and more kind of fancy the whole time, and you know, people expressed a nostalgia and love for like old New York, things that would slowly peel away like as I was here, like pearl paint. I mean, there's a long list of those things. So yeah, I definitely saw like a transition, but then when I left and the COVID happened, maybe it spun it back a little bit, or spun it sideways a little bit.
As these things leave, like as pearl paint leaves, or you know the banks shut down, or these long-standing businesses and staples in these cultures, it almost seems to me like, yeah, New York is always growing, and there is always new infrastructure and all that type of shit. But it's like, what is replacing, like for example, a staple like the banks? I don't know what's replacing it. Like in the skate world, nothing seems like to me. Like what? Like the new skate park in Harlem. Like it's not the same thing. Or like you know, pearl paint, and what is there now? Like a new like Blick art store on it. Is that replacing it? Like, well, it is kind of replacing it, but I'm saying like, is it serving the same role as like this thing did? And like my question is like, is like that part just completely gone? Like, is it just never to return? You know what I mean?
I do. Personally, for me, then it's just about the people that are here. Is what I get out of it once pearl paint's gone. I mean, the sad thing is when those places go, you're like, oh, I wonder what it's going to be, and it's usually just like Dwayne Reed.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
because that's who takes over those big places. But yeah, I think at that point it becomes about what it's going to be, and then maybe somewhere in there, the digital thing kind of took over as like a new outlet, a new place to explore, and it became less about pearl paint. And I used to work at Angelica Kitchen, you know, plant-based restaurant so that was another staple that went away.
that was like the vegan spot.
Yeah, the vegan spot. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, for me then it just becomes about the folks that are here.
So why did you work at Angelica's? Were you like dabbling in like the vegan stuff at the time, or just by chance?
Yeah, I think Angelica was a famous vegan restaurant that was here in New York from I think the late 70s until about 2015. And there was some kind of crossover of like old school New York hardcore music people.
Yeah, I know John Joseph, he always talks about Angelica's Kitchen.
He was in there. Glennie Friedman was in there. Some like Def Jam people that were getting into vegetarian, vegan stuff were come. So I think it was like I think the reason I got hired is because I came from Colorado and they thought there was kind of like a little bit of like a hippie connection.
That's so funny.
You know what I mean? I really think that was probably it.
Yeah.
There's also a group of kids that are a little older than me that moved here from my town before me, and one of them worked there, and he was like, you could check it out. And that was like, I mean, that was kind of cool because in a way I was like jumping right in to, I wouldn't call it a scene, but like a zone. I remember like, you know, funny little things like someone came in and my manager was right here. He like gave me $50 and somehow I gave him back 100 and food. Like he like hustled me.
Yeah.
Like kind of like the cashier version of the coconuts or something. And I was like, oh. And my manager was just laughing at me like, because I was pretty green. Like I really did come up from Colorado and I was like, this is cool. And then just from that being there and just getting a feel for the energy in that area, the people, I was like, I kind of want to stay, you know.
Why did you initially move here?
I moved here for no reason. I moved here because a friend of mine that I went to college with, his dad was a pilot, and he gave me a plane ticket here. And I was going to stay for just 3 months. And then that was like 22 years.
You know, it always crazes me out to hear like the whole, yeah, I paid $350 for this, or I think Jest and Claw told us also what they paid. I don't remember what it was, but it was something crazy, something that like you hear now and it just sounds like a myth, like sounds like something that could never ever happen ever again, and almost never happened. But like obviously that's how it was, and that's what the prices were. It's like now you could live like like a 2-hour commute from the city, and it's still not going to be that. Even for a room, it's not going to be that.
Yeah, I think I saw the last of the like $500 bedrooms. So like our neighbors, some of them were like 30 in the east. I lived at 6th and B, and some of the neighbors were like 30, and they, to me, they seemed like dinosaurs at the time. They were like these old dudes. But I think they were the last gen, like early 90s guys to each pays 500 in an East Village 2-bedroom. So they have a 2-bedroom for $1,000. Yeah, and that's like been gone.
What was your life like then? Like your daily routine? What was your like when you'd wake up? Like what was your life like? And then as opposed to now that you live in Colorado and you have a child and you have this whole different type of life, what are like the main differences in how you live your life?
I mean, I feel really lucky in a sense that I came here because it gave me this like timeline that I just really like, where like I kind of got to have a second, like I grew up in Colorado, went to college, came here, and then I had this like almost 20 years of just like figuring it out, you know, working, having relationships, and then like started a family kind of late. And now that I have a kid and stuff, like my maturity level is like, patience is just right, I think, for that. And I don't feel like I'm missing out if I'm not out, like, running around. You mean what was my life like here in the early 2000s, or what was it like?
Yeah. Like
it was like
2000s, paying like the $350 for the bedroom and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was like, so when I got here, it was like Tricky, that musician.
Okay.
Was popular, like a trip hop guy. Yak Pack, and then like Messenger Bags, Manhattan Portage, like those things were big. There was some kind of Nike like Prestos. When was that?
Mm-hmm.
When was Prestos? I don't know.
You talking about?
Because sometimes I'll get them off where someone will be like, Prestos was like 2007, dude, and I'll be like, oh. But well, it was funny because I got here and I could see like defined trends, which we didn't really have like in the woods, because it just, people don't feel the need to like be right on trend, because it doesn't matter. you know?
Yeah.
And then I got here, and just some like really cool early memories was like I met Rob Campbell, who's like, to me, one of the most iconic like New York skaters.
OG to the fullest.
Triple OG.
Firmest handshake of all time.
Firmest handshake, probably crunches your knuckles when he does it.
Destroy your hand.
Yeah. He's like best guy. And like, I was skating with him at Union Square, and he's like, let's go to this other spot. And I just remember skating in traffic for the first time with him, and I felt like, all right, I just jumped in the river with like the big fish. Like,
yeah.
And that was fun. And then, you know, at the time, like I had a pager, so there was, you know, not the phone thing. And just like moving around, had different sublets. There were cool, like, still kind of like cool stores, like a techno only record store. I remember Footwork, which you guys have to be too young for that. That was like a Bobito downstairs record store.
Okay.
In the East Village, which was really cool. And like magazines had a lot of juice then. It would be like Tokion, ID, Index, like all these magazines had a lot of say in media, like not like now where it's mostly like a lot. I mean, those things still exist, but it's more like user generated stuff now, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like, and then in terms of like the city, like so starting in like 99, I felt like there was like a scene happening, like a new scene. And that was like, some of it was like graffiti, skateboarding. Like there was like a time from like the early 90s people into like the late 90s, 2000s people. So I felt like it was fun to just be there for all that stuff.
Yeah, what was the deal with like you did like the AutoGraf book, super iconic to say the least. All of these writers that you had on it were just like, it's just like straight up crazy. Like you had NATO, Jest, Sems, Corn, Ear Snot, Claws in it. Like you have so many just, and that's like not the first, but like one of the more like iconic moments I think, where like the graffiti writer, him or herself, gets taken out of total obscurity, and you can like somewhat match like maybe not a clear face, but like some sort of something to the name. Some of them would give off like their own like their own like style, their own attitude, just from the way like they're posing or what they're wearing or like what's in the background. And you're like, oh shit, like this is this person, you know what I mean? Where did that idea first of all, like where did that idea to make that book come from?
Okay, so that book, like at first I just had the idea. I didn't even care so much if the photos were good, like, because I didn't know how to take photos then. I was like, I want to do this. I just want the tag with the photo, with the graph writer. Because for me, it was kind of almost like, not investigative journalism, but I really wanted to know who wrote the tags. Because I didn't know. I thought it was all like part of like some hip hop thing or something. I didn't know there was all different types of people that wrote graffiti, like from like metal dudes to like skateboarders. Like I didn't know. I genuinely wanted to discover like who wrote. And I had a roommate at the time. I don't remember how we met, but I was living with Pez, who's like at the time was up with tags and stickers probably more than anyone, like because he was a bike messenger and then he was a food delivery guy. And he wasn't from New York, but he had a lot of like New York writers really liked him. And I think from him, like he introduced me to like several people. And so that book is basically like I'm learning how to take pictures, but I think that kind of naive vibe is what can like that's where the magic is. Like once you figure it out too much, something might be lost. But like some of the pictures in there, like because I'm experimenting with different distances from the subject. Like there's like area and deck where I'm like close in on their faces, and that's how they're kind of obscured. And then some are like this. It was just exciting. I mean, that book was like a 3-year process. And so I had to meet the writer somewhere, photograph them, get a print made, bring it back to them, have them sign it. I mean, it was cool. I mean, there's definitely things I would do differently now, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, the thing that, like, once I had a few heavies in there, like, other people were like, oh, yeah, I want to do it. Like, I think once Ear Snot did it, pretty much everyone was like, let's go. The other thing that was really cool.
But how did they find out that, like for example, nowadays, people would know that Ear Snot did it because there's a bunch of, there's a bunch of media, there's a bunch of photos. You can see at a moment's notice. You post it, they'll see it. How did they know that? Just by word of mouth?
No, I would tell them who's done it already.
Mm.
So I'd be like, I shot with Ear Snot, Sam's, like all that. Is this like instant coffee?
Yeah.
I can feel it, dude.
That's all I have.
No, I love instant coffee, but I can tell
yeah.
I got to pump. It's like, it's hitting. No, so there was like a scene around Iraq people. And like, you could really see it in the East Village, which is where I was living. And like Etch just started in like 99. and I would just see it, and I was like, what is Sacker? You know, like I didn't know anything, like I really didn't know anything about it. And like it was kind of, that book was also a way for me to like figure out like what was going on. Like I didn't know any of the etiquette stuff of like tag, throw up, fill in, roller. And then the photos were really fun because like writers just bring the swag, like they care about being photographed, which I didn't even think about. As I was just like, I want to just get a picture of you. You can obscure however you want, you know, your identity, and you can hit it with a tag. I actually didn't really care, but then when I started seeing the writers like thinking about how they wanted to look in the photos, and like the locations were so important, and like I took a picture of Remo that he never signed, but I remember just holding up my camera, and he just like went into like this pose, and I was like, this is incredible. Like this is what these guys are like bringing the vibe, you know? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I just got kind of into it, and then I would ask if I did shoot with someone, I'd ask them who else they liked, other writers. The thing is, there's a lot of dope ones that didn't happen all the way. So that's for me always the thing where I had like a sick photo of like Pen and Shine, you know, and it like they didn't feel they were obscured enough, so it didn't go in. And I'm like I really was a fan, you know, there. So, yeah, and then that was like, you know, going for years, like with just a pager, meeting people.
You developed the photos yourself as well in that time period, or?
No, I would take them. It would also simultaneously in that time period, there was kind of a you know, interest in like simple point and shoot photography and not doing your own darkroom work. Just like, before that, it was like, oh, you have to have medium format and everything has to be really serious. And then it was like, people started shooting like this, and I was kind of part of that too, because I was like, not so much like the photographer, but I was like doing things with the camera, you know? So yeah, to circle back, Pez started it off and introduced me to Cynic, a bunch of people in the beginning. And then once I had some of those people in there, the others came pretty easily.
So when you started the project, you really had no idea about the ins and outs of graph culture or graph etiquette or anything like that. And then just by sheer chance, you ended up, like it organically happened that all of these heavy people came through, were a part of the project, and then you put together the book in a way that it seems like you knew, you know what I mean? Like it seems like you knew what the fuck was up. That's what's like shocking to me, that you didn't, and you started the project to put a face to the name and like kind of understand, and you barely knew how to take photos, and then like it looks like it was super planned out, and that you were, you know, heavily knew what you were doing from both sides right away.
Yeah, thanks. I had no idea. And then and then also like you know, I knew about f-stops and shutter speed, which is basically what you need to just line up to get like an image to expose right. But I didn't know anything really beyond that. But yeah, that was like all that whole book was like I was learning about it, you know, and meeting those guys and like just connecting with the city. And then I don't know, I've always just read graph like everywhere I go. I don't know necessarily why, but then I really did feel like a deeper connection, because I was like, I know who did that. Whereas like a lot of people don't consider it, or they think it's ugly, or it's just not part of their day to like look at it, you know?
When you started, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
When you started that project, did you think that, did you have an idea of like a time frame for how long you were going to do it? Because essentially there's like an unlimited supply of graffiti writers, because like once one generation goes away, there's like another. Did you know like a certain amount of people that you were going to get in that project?
Yeah, well, eventually it was like the publisher was like, let's make a date. Here's the deadline. This is the end. And then I started just shooting more like landscapes because some people that I wanted to photograph didn't pan out. So I was like, at least I want to put a picture of their fill-in in there, you know. But yeah, I could have kept going, and then it did keep going a little bit. Like Sneeze magazine I did several more with them, just for fun, like after the fact. But yeah, and then I just kept paying attention after that. So,
Do you have any of the photographs that were particularly, like, they stand out to you for a certain memory that they bring back, or like a wild instance that came with that photo, or like meeting up to do these things and like things that would go down?
yeah, let me think. Like for me, because I didn't really photograph like action stuff, like people actually bombing. And then when I did, we all got arrested. So I was with, because also like I said, my approach was a real naive to all this stuff. So I didn't know. And then as I kept going, I started meeting different writers, and like I met Ewok, and then we went out with his crew, 5MH.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is cool. And then we started doing photos of them bombing, which I hadn't done. Those photos I never saw because they all got seized because we all got arrested. So this is like right after 9/11, and everything's like a little heightened as far as like security and all that. And we were driving around all night, and then for some reason at like 4 a.m, everyone was tired, and they just started writing like right in J Street in Brooklyn, downtown.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It might have even been like a little hot. It might have been too close to the police thing, whatever. But anyway, we all got arrested, like gun in the face from the cop, the whole thing. And then at one point when we were in the pins, I got separated from them. So they started thinking that I was a snitch and that I had set them up, which I kind of understand like why they would think that, but I was just, and then in the end, we all came together, saw the judge together, and they didn't think I was a snitch. And then I did community service and all that. But that's not so much of a great story, but it gave me a lot of perspective on getting bagged. Like that part of the process of writing graffiti is like,
Sucks you couldn't take photos in there.
I have a Polaroid somewhere of like the guy came and shot the cans as evidence. And I was like, let me get a Polaroid of me in here. And I'm like this, like in the slammer. But, but it was also, like I said, like, it was also like right after 9/11. So they were like extra pissed about it. And they were like, the cops were like, you doing a little interior decorating out there? That was like their line for like graffiti. The other thing they did was they tried to get us to admit that we wrote on mailboxes. Because I think that's like a federal deal.
Offense, yeah.
So what that did was gave me insight on people that have gotten arrested multiple times. And I was like, this once was like, kind of freaked me out. Like, you know, I'm trying to think of other stories.
Did you get any charges from that or no?
I got time served and 3 days community service.
Oh, okay.
It's criminal mischief or something.
Yeah, and that just went away.
And it went away, I think. Like I've never heard about it coming back up. I mean, I shot with Surf and Mint in this phone booth. Oh, sorry, not phone booth. Shot Surf and Mint on a rooftop, and then we climbed over a few rooftops and we descended down the building. And then as we were going out, we got stuck in between two doors somehow. And I was like, we could see out the door, but no, you couldn't open it. There was like no handle on it. So we were stuck. And then they like caught a bunch of tags in the hallway, and I was like, oh God, now we're going to get in trouble. And I was like starting to stress. But then we fed a shoelace out the door and like pulled it from both sides. And there was like one of those like elementary school like push bars, and we like MacGyvered our way out, climbed out. But this is like over like a bunch of hours. Like we were like kind of fried by the end, but that was cool. And then a lot of it was just like meeting like there's just a lot of personalities in Graf, you know.
Yeah.
Like I remember Cynic watching him do tags and being like, look at these fresh shits. Like he was like so like you could see it in his eyes, like he was just stoked, you know. Cope too was like I'd get a call because this is before cell phone. I'd have to page him. He'd be like, yo, Peter. And then it'd be like full 10 seconds and he'd be like, Scope. You know? So there's this, that kind of thing was cool, you know, to kind of engage with all these guys. So,
You know, it's funny you say that graph is one of those things, like one of the only things that you had an interest in that you never really did. But one of our first episodes, we spoke to Nove, and he's really into like the history of graffiti and the people who have documented it. And you know, like Martha Cooper's, Henry Chalfant's. You look at like books like Subway Art that have influenced so many writers, and so many writers who, not just like whatever writers, like big name writers who ended up making an even crazier influence on the scene in their own way, were influenced by these people. You know what I mean? The amount of writers that we've spoken to who picked up Subway Art and they were like, wow, I'm going to really start writing graph now. Or, you know, flip to the future, and videos like State Your Name, and even that from the video game Mark Echo's Getting Up, and that little thing that had like, you know, Noxer, Vifer, and all these people. Those are like in my eyes, those are like the Subway Art of the next gen. And it had a ginormous influence on like everyone that I know. And, you know, I've said it a few times, but like, it's like the Bible to like everyone that I know. And, you know, every single word they said, what they were wearing, how they said it, the pauses in between the sentences, you know what I mean? And, in like, I have a lot of respect for the people who do that, who like make these pieces of like media or art or whatever you want to call it, like, you know, organize themselves, get together, get all these people together, make a style to it, and stamp a moment in time, like forever. Like now it's there, you know what I mean? And like you with AutoGraf, that's what you did, you know, and you have like the compilation of like all the sickest people from then, and in a very unique way, because whether you meant to or not, you know, you didn't take photos of people in action, but that's what everybody does. So it's even like super more unique when it's just them. Like it's like a portrait. When do you have a portrait of like a writer? Never, you know. So it's like a moment in time that's just stamped because of something like that. So it's awesome.
Thanks. No, for real. I'd love if people still look at it, talk about it, you know. Yeah, I mean, I think I was just lucky in the sense of like there was a moment in time that I could feel bubbling up, because some of those guys that we mentioned, those guys like got other people to come back out. You could see like old writers starting to do this. I mean, I think my interest in it goes back to the Mean Streaks article. So there's like a Rolling Stone 1995 Mean Streaks, it's called.
Okay.
And it's all about, it's just the journalist goes with him, and there's also JD and Foe.
Okay.
And he's talking about them smoking dust and like climbing on billboards and like all this stuff. And like I just read that whole article. I'd never been to New York, but I was like, this is dope.
Oh wait, is it the article where he's like chilling with what writers is he hanging with?
I think JD and Foe.
Okay.
I think, or those are like who's in his orbit at that time.
Okay.
And they're just painting him as like the heaviest crusher, you know. On that article, like, so in some ways, like the funny thing is, I never got a picture of JA. So that was like Moby Dick or something. Like I was like, he was always off. I put photos of his fill-ins in there, but like, you know, that was the one. And then when I photographed Sacer, he was quoting that article. Like because they talk about J.A. pulling up to Delancey Street wearing a pair of rollerblades or something. And like, he was quoting it like line by line, like he had like read it and memorized it too. So I think for like folks older than yourselves, like you had to really dig. There wasn't a lot coming out on Graph, but this one article kind of like was like kind of iconic for a lot of people. So yeah, now as it keeps going, like you have books and then you have digital stuff. And I feel like this thing has become the main platform to talk about some of this stuff, which is cool. So it's like an evolution from like obscure, like article in a mainstream magazine to like to everything.
I feel like the article in the mainstream magazine is super. It is like you're taking it out of obscurity, but it's still in obscurity.
Yeah.
You have to actually have that shit, and not everyone has access to it. And then also once they're gone, they're taken, they're gone. They're in people's closets. Like I would love to find some of these things, but I probably never will. You know what I mean? It's gonna be super, super hard. But there is also like a purity in that because you appreciate it so much more. Like, yo, this is not for not everyone can just get this. You know what I mean?
For sure. Do you guys write?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't ask what, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Ever since you like, you moved out of New York, but I'm assuming definitely before then, and you had like a child, which I know is like a ginormous part of your life, and I'm assuming has drastically influenced the way you think and just view the world now. Did you ever think of yourself as someone who would have a child? Like, yeah, one day this is what I want to do, or just like it just morphed into existence?
Having a child, I did think I would have one. I thought I'd be 42. I was 41. Even when I was like your age, I was like, I'm gonna have a kid. And then the thing with having a child is like, I love it. I think it's fun every day. Like I think you have a range of emotions you've experienced like as an adult, and then you have a child and it just goes even further where you're like, wow, like love this guy. Yeah. And then it's given me just kind of a perspective on the circle of life that I didn't have, where it's like when I see other kids, like I know how to talk to them or something now. Like it's like I just see them as like they're just like us, but they're in different stages of their life. But before I just had no interest in kids, and then I do get a lot out of like that youthful energy that he brings. So yeah, that thing has been lucky, for sure.
How do you go about trying to, like, some parents are like, I'm gonna do it this way, I'm gonna do it that way. They will do this. Like the other day, I heard like my child will do this, and it's like the thing that the parent likes. Like, what do you? Like, of course, there's no way that you don't have like expectations. It's just like human nature. You're gonna hope that certain things go down, and those things are like our expectations. So how do you go about trying to raise your child in the best ways possible?
Yeah, that thing is hard because a lot of people that gravitate towards the things that you or I might like skateboarding, whatever. They might have got there because their parents didn't like that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Yeah, I want to skate with him, things like that, but you can't push it. So basically, little kids are down for stuff if there's other little kids doing it, I find. Which, if I wanted him to skate, then I would try to get him with the group of his buddies, and then they all do it. I wouldn't just try to force it on him. And then the little kids are also into things that they're good at easily. So he figured out the bike pretty quick. But a skateboard, it takes him a year to learn how to do a kickflip or something. So he's not as excited about that. But I think you just have to be a bit zen about it and see where it goes. I don't think you can really choose for them. Because right now he's surrounded by pretty good music. he already has skateboards on ice and waiting for him and bikes and like those things for myself. I had to like really dig and work to get those to build up to the point where I had a pro skate deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's going to be, it wouldn't be as special for him if I just hand him one, or he doesn't even remember because he's so young that I'm like, you should ride this, you know? So, I don't know if that answers your question, but basically, I mean, my strategy or our strategy with my wife is like, I think we just try to just give him love, like, and then that's the foundation, and then everything else is kind of like gravy after that.
What are your thoughts on like raising a child in like an area like Colorado, for example, as opposed to like a city type of vibe? You know what I mean? Because like I feel like children that are raised in the city, like I'm just looking at the most recent, like my nieces or, you know, things like that. I feel like the parents don't really have time to, I don't know, like to raise their children in a way because they're so busy working and making ends meet, and like the rent is crazy here, and then the children are just in like indoctrination school like 8 hours a day, and then like, I don't know, it's just like it feels very disconnected from a child in a way in a city environment, as opposed to like Colorado, for example, I would think, where the kid just like roams free in my mind, you know? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think because now, you know, there's no matter how long I live here, there's a big difference between myself and like a kid that is born and raised here. And I've met a lot of those kids, and they always have like a coolness or a sensibility that it's like a worldly thing, or they're just exposed to more. So I think there's like pluses for both, you know. Like all the like death and suffering stuff aside, like during COVID, like that was probably the best time we could have had for a family, because like you said, all the extraneous stuff was like cut out, and we were just with him, and like he's seeing friends and he went to school and stuff, but like that was special. I mean, it's just, I think it's also depends what you're used to. Like I grew up in like a middle class like house, so for me like living in an apartment never felt all that normal, and then living in an apartment with a kid like actually felt kind of like crazy, where I was like, it can never be clean, there's so much stuff, it's like, you know. Yeah. So I don't think there's any right way to do it, but I think I like the idea of him having a little more space, you know.
Yeah, I think that like in my experience, like until I was like 10 years old, I lived in Jackson Heights in like a relatively small apartment with like my mom and my dad. Before that, we lived in a basement in Jackson Heights with my mom, my dad, my grandma, my other grandma, my aunt, and like I never thought anything of it, you know, because that's all you know. You're born into that world, and it's like, it's not like I'm like, damn, but what about those motherfuckers in Colorado who have a big ass field? All I know is like a little room, you know what I mean? So then like I remember being so happy. Like I remember my other cousins came from Ecuador, and we were eating like powdered milk, and I remember being like, this shit tastes like so ill, and I'm so hyped that my other cousin is here. Like there's mad people in this room, this is sick, and I'm like just jumping on the mattress that's like on the floor, and never once did I think like, damn bro, we're literally like 7 deep on a mattress on the floor. I just thought like, this is amazing, you know. And then I remember when I was 10 and we moved to Massachusetts, and like there was a bigger house and there was a yard. I remember being like, yo, this blows. Like where is like real reality? And then I remember when we were gonna move back, and I'm like, no, I don't want to move back to New York. Like what are you talking about? Like I don't get to run outside. So like in both instances, I was like, fuck that place. No matter which way, like, you know, I feel like when you're a little kid, you just get so used to where you're at, and what like the suffering comes like when it changes, and then you like leave all of your friends and you leave like what you know what I mean? At least that was like my experience. But I definitely think that in New York, you're gonna get more of like a breadth of experience, like a variety of experience, just because of like the amount of people who live here. You're gonna see, and like in like Mass, you can go from here to the supermarket in your car, like protected from the outside world until you get right to the supermarket, and then you go in, and then you go. Where it's like here, it's like you want to get to the supermarket, you might have to, like, let's say you walk 4 blocks, you're gonna like experience everything from like your apartment to those 4 blocks, and there's no like house car thing that is taking away from all of that, which might be a good or bad thing. You might see some like dude literally uke on the side of the road with your child and be like, damn it, I wish that they didn't just see that. You know what I mean? Have you ever felt like that? Like, say that you're walking around with your child and like feel like anxiety, like, I hope nothing like jading occurs.
Yeah, I have, but I've also I've had that where like I just saw some like 8th graders like really fighting in this park in Colorado.
Okay.
And I was just like pretending that I was like goofing, you know, like, I don't know, we're doing this game or something.
Yeah.
Just to like not have them see it.
Mm.
But, you know, I've also heard kids that grew up in New York say that they firsthand saw people nodding off from heroin like their whole lives. So they kind of went away from that kind of drugs and stuff because they're just like very aware that it doesn't really come out so great sometimes. So I don't lean towards a total sheltered life for the kid at all. But I also, when they're really young, I just want him to be in kid zones, because right now he's like just full Spider-Man. Like, it's honestly so just wholesome. Like, I've never seen from a person. So it's like, you want to like nurture that zone, you know?
Isn't it crazy? Like when you see your child, like let's say you see your child witness a fight or something, or anything. It doesn't even have to be a fight. It could be anything. And you know, with high certainty that that's the first time that they're seeing that. Isn't that crazy? Like, that is the first time that, like, if your child were to have seen that fight or whatever it is, or even if it just first time it tries ice cream, you know, it's literally the first time. So it's not like us that we've tried millions of different ice creams and we're like, oh yeah, I know it's going to taste good. This is not surprising to me. Okay, whatever. I ate this and now I'm done. It's like, yo, what is this ice cream? Like, this is crazy. It's like they're legitimately, you're watching them experience the world starting from nothing.
Yeah, and that's one of the coolest things about it. Like, you're seeing him, like, his mind's getting blown all the time by different stuff. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes they have like concepts of why things are the way they are, like why he's in this position. Might not be, to him it might be something else. Like, this might be paint.
Yeah.
He might be dancing. But us 3 would look at it and think we're pretty sure he's like scrapping with some other dudes. So yeah, the kid thing is sick. You guys in that realm at all?
No.
Yeah, I would say wait. I would say wait, because it is a shift into like
I just like contemplating on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How is your do you plan on just never moving back to New York?
I think for us, we would try LA. Even though, I mean, I love New York, so it's hard, I mean, to leave. And even you guys grew up here, right? It's really hard for you guys because you started off like sitting in the throne. This is like, you know? So I think it's hard for you guys to figure out where to go if you were to move, you know? But I'm interested. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's no plan, but I could see us doing LA. It's kind of a middle ground between here and, you know, Colorado. But
you can have your own actual home there with a yard and some space.
Yeah, you can live in a house.
Yeah. Have a car, and like there will be some traffic, but you'll like find parking relatively easily. All that. It's like it's like a good middle ground.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
And for your stuff too, like creative work.
Yeah, and then that, and like a lot of people from here go there. They get. It's the cliche thing. You want a little more space, like, you know.
Yeah. I noticed that with like this whole Corona thing, because as soon as it went down, like you were saying, people were leaving, like yourself, and I feel like they finally they started having time for like these creative endeavors and like pursuing things that they'd never really had time for, or like broke out of their like the structure they had going on in the city. And like another thing I noticed is that something I'm interested in currently is like the van life type of style. And I noticed that like skyrocketing, like people's interests for that type of, I feel like this whole thing that happened with this like corona thing is that people like broke out of this like comfort zone in a way, whether they like to or not, and started thinking of different alternatives, you know what I mean? And they didn't have a lot of time to do it because you have to act quick, like if you really want to make a commitment to that type of life. And yeah, I don't know if that had anything to do with
No,
it.
that's the thing. I mean, where I was, everyone was buying a kayak and a tent and a van life situation set up and wanting to be outdoors. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we actually were going to go to LA anyway, so it wasn't like just Corona, but once we were in LA, LA is almost the same price as here. And I was really concerned, like, I don't know if I'm going to make money during this time because it just seemed fun. What did you guys do during, what did you do differently?
Nothing. I literally just kept working. Like, they didn't close my job down. Like, everything was honestly the same for me. But I know a lot of people that they're still unemployed, you know, like a lot of people lost a lot of things or people left, you know, but me personally, nothing really changed. And to this day, and since it's kind of dying down, it's been like the same, I guess.
Yeah, I was supposed to be going to school, and then all this happened, and then that ended up not happening how I thought it was going to. I ended up like quitting that, and then we started actually this podcast. For me, it was a cool time because like by just like luckily no one I know really passed, you know. No one in my family, like direct family, passed. Like only people I know of who were like really badly affected by it were like someone who knows someone. So yeah, it sucks, but it's not like it like destroys my emotions because I'm so far removed from that. It was like I spent a lot of time with my family, like a lot of us did, and it just completely took me out of my every single day routine of what I'm used to and what I do. I left New York. I was with my parents in Massachusetts for like 3 months, and I went and I thought I was going to be there for like, I don't know, a week. And then like 3 months passed. I'm like, yo, this is like the longest I've not been here since. And it's like the middle of the woods. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like I don't see anyone or like do anything. But my routine was pretty sick. Like I just wake up, read, and then like do like some push-ups, do some like calisthenics like inside my basement, and then I would I just like cook for my family. And it was pretty
Nice,
cool.
right?
Like I enjoy cooking, and like it was cool. Like, and it's funny because like as someone who you're used to the city life, maybe you take the train every day, maybe you like a few nights a week you go out do some painting. You hear like the train go by you. You hear this guy like, look at that, look at this over there. Then you hear like the train conductor say something. Some crazy dude walks in the subway. Then you're like, I don't know. There's so much like boom, 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 boom. There was like, it's like a whole different life. You know what I mean? And it's pretty calming. And it made me start thinking, damn, maybe I should just straight up live here forever. 'Cause this is like why am I started thinking of New York, and I don't think this, but this was my thought then. I started thinking of New York as like a ginormous complication. Like this is where I live. At like right before Corona, I was going to like downtown every single day to hang out with like people or do this or do that. So my commute was pretty diesel. You know, if I want to move or do something like that, it's gonna be, you know, the rent's about to go crazy. Then I'm gonna have to get like more roommates. Then I'm gonna have to do this. If not, I have to do that. And I'm like, yo, but I'm like happy here in the woods, straight up doing nothing. Like not nothing, but not doing like all the other stuff I was doing. So I'm like, I started questioning like, am I overcomplicating my life and adding like unnecessary stress for the sake of like, I don't even know for the sake of what? Like I don't even know for the sake of anything. And I'm like, I started thinking of like my parents and like, you know, you don't know how long your parents are gonna be around for. And I'm like, maybe I should move to Mass and just like be with them for the time being because they're planning on moving to Ecuador. So I'm like, even if they don't pass, like I'm gonna see them like how many times a year? You know what I mean? So I was like, maybe I should be out. And then I don't know where that thought went, but it's just like everything, like the chemicals in my brain just faded, and now like I'm pretty extremely happy to be here. So
You're back in the mix.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in having that thought of like maybe the extra energy it takes to live in a place like this.
Yeah.
But that's the trade-off.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know,
Yeah.
because it is a really cool place. I mean, it's been fun, like just on this visit, like seeing friends and like
Yeah, your story's looking like you're looking.
Yeah, I'm
looking
like,
you're having the time of
whoa,
your
dude.
life.
um,
Like graffiti, friends, food, more graffiti. Look at this sick piece. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can tell you're like appreciating everything.
oh
Like,
yeah,
You're just loving it. You see like a straight letter and you're like, this is fire.
yeah.
You know
And
what
someone
I mean?
wrote quasar. You guys know what a
Yeah,
quasar
yeah.
is?
Quasar's sick. His graffiti's awesome.
But you know what a quasar
Oh, no,
is?
no.
It's when you and I accidentally like touch hands.
Mm.
You go quasar. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like I don't exactly know, but it's like a funny
Yeah.
thing. But then yeah, the way it looks is so rad. I don't know quasar, but I was instantly like, look at that.
Yeah, he
Um,
approaches his pieces really well too.
Yeah. Who are some of you guys' favorites?
Of graffiti?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's honestly, I respect everyone like pushing the limits in a way. Like I don't know, like when I see like False come out of nowhere and do like a crazy stomper, like I'm like, holy shit, that's sick. Or like Pear, like, you know, these people. But like anyone really pushing the limits, I'd say. And I think a lot of that is happening right now in New York City because during the Corona thing, like the streets just started getting covered because like a lot of gates and neighborhoods that usually never had graffiti, or like it would just get buffed right away, they just started accumulating, and like people gave up because I think the New York City graffiti like task force that would clean them like was defunded, and like no one was really cleaning up graffiti. So if you're just like in the mix of a bunch of throwaways, you kind of just blend in, you don't stand out. So people started really pushing the envelope, I think, in my opinion. So they started really doing like crazy things that I've never really seen before, honestly, in like New York City history. But like what I grew up on, because I'm from South Brooklyn, like I don't know, just like a lot of writers that were like on the train lines that were near me that I would see all the time just looking out the window, you know. But yeah, honestly, I respect anyone nowadays like really pushing it. You know, like recently we spoke to Nova again, and that's somebody like, it's just bugged out with this podcast. Like I'm meeting people that like as a little kid they were like a superhero in my mind, and now it's like putting a face and a conversation to all this is like very, very trippy.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think it was gonna be in like my path of in my life. It was it's
So
really
essentially all like an accident.
Yeah.
You know, like this how it came about. Like it was not supposed to be like you told us earlier, like a ginormous compliment of like how this is like a good platform to blah blah blah. It wasn't like that. Was not even. It was literally just gonna be me and him talking shit about like random things. You know what I mean? And then like
Random things.
yeah, random
I
things.
like that.
Everything. And then like Charlie Hustle came on, and then like it reminded me of what you said, how when yours was down with your thing, then every other writer was like, let's do it. It's like the exact same thing happened. And like yeah, so that's essentially what happened. And like with graffiti comes like a lot of other people, like you know. I've skated since I was like 11 years old, and like I've always been knowing about your projects like Pedal, and just like all the stuff that you do and the photos that you take, even if it was just for like someone modeling something or something. Like I've always been like, you know, up to date on your stuff, and then just through like a random mixture of things. But getting back to your original question of like the writers that I like is like, I've always really liked forever the writers that when I see their stuff, I can put like maybe not a face to a name, but like a style and a personality. Not style in terms of writing, but like, yo, like this is who I am to the thing. So I always loved Nove, and now I love it even more because he's the man. Like I've always, because, you know, I used to think of his personality as like, I'll fight you right now. You know, like I don't care about anything, and I have no friends, and fuck you too. So I thought about that, and like I would see it on the wall, like, and it was like when I came around, it was like, it's not like he was like actively painting anymore. So when you do see it, it was even more special. I'm like, yo, this dude was like here, you know. So that was always one of my favorites. Earsnot, I always loved. All of his interviews, I love like hearing him talk when he's just like, yeah, man, like I'll fucking catch mad tags easy, fucking Midtown easy, broad day. People in their suits like, what? I didn't see that. And then like, you know, he's just hitting and he just like carefree, doesn't give a shit about anything. He like wearing the yellow gloves, the yellow windbreaker or whatever, catches the upside down thing with his bike. And I'm like, sick, dude. Like I can put like a personality. It's not just like some writing on the wall. It's more of like an energy. I love Charlie's stuff and I love MQ stuff. Those are like my favorites. And you know, I think they like it like inspires me outside of graffiti. Just like cool human beings who are like have style and energy to them. That shit gets me really hyped. And even more when I meet them and they don't like let my image down and they end up being like super cool and like they don't even care about like I'm some cool guy and they're just like, yeah, like let's do it right now. You can come over and like I'll do this and it'll be cool. I don't know. Yeah. I like it when you know, in graffiti, skateboarding, hardcore punk, there's so much like cool guyism. There's so much like I've met you 7 times and you're acting like you don't know me. What did I do? Like we're literally human beings, bro. It doesn't have to be this like I'm better than you because I hang out with this group of friends. But like in another society, I would be that group of friends or like whatever, you know. So I've always disliked that because I myself never felt like I was like, you know, I always had friends who like really loved this shit, like straight up loved it, but maybe we weren't like the coolest or maybe we weren't like the dudes on top that everyone is immediately gonna like suck you off if they know that that's who you hang out with. And not all the time, but a lot of times you get like these very nasty ass vibes from those people, and I'm like, well, that was corny because I literally didn't do. If anything, we shared things in common. You know what I mean? But now tables are turning, and like people who I know would not have been cool with like me or whatever, or him, or like are super down to be super cool with us. But like I completely understand it. But like how I approach it is like when random people hit me up, I try to go out of my way to talk to them, not even to prove a point, but just because like I'm like, dude, this is sick that you think that like this is cool, and like I respect you, and if you like can gain something from this conversation or like anything at all, then like fuck yeah, like, you know, like this is awesome. I have no need to like further my ego by destroying your feelings. You know what I mean? So when I meet the writers who are like that, which has been pretty much all of them who have been on the show, I'm like, yo, this is awesome. It makes me love graffiti more. Because like I be hating it sometimes and I'm like, yo, this is so stupid. But then I'm like, how can I say it's stupid when every single person who I've met, not every single, but like for the most part, generally speaking, who I've met through it, has been like, has treated me as if they like owed me something, like they have helped me and they've been like there for me. And these graph writers are not judgmental people in the sense of like, they're going to be like down for you, you know. They're not going to be like, oh, but you didn't go to college, or like, oh, you do this or you do that, or like, damn, you steal, like you've boosted before, like I can't hang out with you, like you're a piece of shit, like in like how normal people, regular outside of graph would think. And I really like that. I feel like I can tell these people anything. Like Nove said it in one of our talks with him. He's like, yeah, I can talk to these people and tell them anything. So yeah, that was like a ginormous rant, but that's like who I like in graph. The people who are like that, you know.
What about Queens specific?
Queens, I really like Clark. Clark is like, and then MQ obviously, but he's kind of like world now. But yeah, his stuff is cool because like it's so like, I don't even know. It's like they always say that, but his is really like a stamp. Like his is really like a stamp, and it's been the exact same forever. Like
yeah, the shape of it is like.
Yeah, like you see it in a videograph, and it's the same one pretty much that's now, and I think that's really cool. And I don't even look at it as like, oh, he hasn't changed his style in whatever years. I think of it as like, kind of like a like VFR or something. Like, I don't know, like you don't change that. That's just what it is now, and that's what it's gonna be forever. And you should just leave it like that because it's like perfect how it is, you know.
His thing's perfect.
Yeah.
The vertical ones, horizontal, totally.
V-Fresh or Vandalism for real, and all the extras is so dope. But yeah, man, I want to say, like, seriously, thank you for coming on the show and like showing us love. And when you, I think the first time you like hit us up on the story or something was through Send 4. You saw the Send 4 and you were like, dope. And I was like, I'm like lurking and I'm like, yo, fucking, I told the homies, I'm like, yo, fucking, Peter Sutherland said that's dope. That's so sick. And I was like, let me see if he's down for the show. And then, you know, now you come to New York and no, I'm super, super grateful. And I do not take this for granted whatsoever. I appreciate it to the fullest. So thank you, bro.
Oh, likewise. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Like
man.
I said
cool.
earlier, man, every guest is a trip, and you're definitely like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
No, this is sick. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace out. The Send 4 thing is funny because it's like so specific.
Yeah.
He just like hits
Mm-hmm.
dumpsters
Dumpsters
and fire hydrants. Yeah, and I'm like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for years, like so long, dude, that guy's been hitting. We're not recording,
Yeah.
obviously.
Okay, no.
Like
Peace.
Yeah, peace.